Can you please take your seats? We will start the closing session. So thank you very much. We welcome you to the closing session of the second Global Dialogue under the Sharm el-Sheikh Mitigation, Ambition and Implementation Work Program. We would like to thank you all for your active participation and engagement in this dialogue over these 2 very busy days, both in person and virtually. We have observed informative interventions and discussions. Your contributions have enriched the dialogue and benefited the mitigation work program. As you have seen throughout the day today, we had 4 breakout groups. We will now hear from each of the facilitators on the discussions that took place and the key issues highlighted under each session. I now invite Ms. Celine Tan, who facilitated the track on financing issues, to report back. And please, Celine, try to confine your reporting to 3 minutes because we are running out of time. You have the floor.
Okay, thanks. I seem to have lost 2 minutes, but that's fine. So we had a really fruitful discussion on the barriers and challenges and some opportunities when we talked about the financing for just transition in transport sectors. The first so I'm going to report back some of the common themes that were discussed across the groups. A key theme that came up was the need for balancing competing interests, being the balance between transition and also sustainable development. Some countries, particularly those with low emissions, felt that their priorities for financing were more to climate resilience and adaptation, and so there was a need to look at those tensions and the conflicts in that. There's a need for prioritization and sequencing of financing needs because many countries cannot finance everything, so there's a need to look into that. That's very heavily dependent on local context and national circumstances as well. So a lot of discussion on public finance. There's indeed a stress on the importance of public finance and the roles played by public finance, not in terms of just direct funding of projects and programs, but also in incentivizing private finance through blended finance mechanisms, public-private partnership, market signaling through policies and regulation. But correspondingly as well, there was discussions on the while there were discussions on the benefits of private finance, which may be applicable for some countries, they might not be appropriate for other countries. Private finance may not be suitable for some sectors that are not deemed as profitable or investable. And may come with additional costs. There's the issue of debt service, and adding to that debt is a concern for some countries going forward. So there was stress on the need for greater concessionality in financing, for the provision of international cooperation on finance, low-cost concessional additional finance, and that this has to be additional to adaptation needs, and so the adherence to some of the core principles of the Convention multilateral climate regime was raised as well here. And there was some debate on the innovative sources of financing, some of the disadvantages with that. It might have spillover effects on other countries in terms of creating trade barriers. There was a great emphasis as well and reminder that the cost of doing nothing versus the cost of doing something is also important, that although the costs and investments might seem quite high, the cost of not doing anything is much higher. There was a lot of also sharing of best practices, particularly among the developed countries here in terms of some of the incentives and investment strategies of developed countries. They might not be appropriate for other countries, but certainly in terms of implementing them in developed countries, may make the biggest contribution to the reduction of greenhouse gas emission. And lastly, to stress as well in all the groups that in addition to meeting the financing challenge. There's also the meeting of the need to meet the technology transfer challenges and capacity building for developing countries as well. So I think I hopefully have captured the key essence of what we've discussed.
And that was perfect in 3 minutes. Thank you, Celine. I now invite Mr. Marir Mohammed Hosni from the Technology Executive Committee, who facilitated the track on the technology and capacity challenges. Marir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Co-Chair. We had a very fruitful discussion today in the 4 breakout groups. Let me very briefly present some of the major challenges that we came across, very similar to my colleague presented about finances issue. We had a finance issue is identified as one of the challenges. Then there was an access to finance. What are the different needs and avenues for financing as well? In terms of access to technology, there was a connotation around affordability and accessibility, as there are high upfront investment costs that needs to be developed to receive some kind of technology, such as transforming the entire infrastructure, which is really needed to bring into the new technology as well. And there were questions related to different countries having different needs, different circumstances, as well as different level of development causes an extra challenge in integrating the technology that is foreign to them, to their communities as well. One of the other thing that it came out was skills and re-upskilling is also one of the challenges that was identified, because new technologies needs new ongoing capacity builds efforts that is required to maintain the infrastructure, as well as training that is required to bring in the infrastructure as well. Some of the aspects that we highlighted was also there is an opportunity associated with these challenges, but one of the thing that came out was collaboration is required not only among the developed and developing country partners, but also with partner agencies as well, in addition to the academia as well. So the whole of collaboration between these agencies is crucial for the effective transfer of these technologies on board. There were some aspects discussed about the innovations that needs to be associated with, particularly on research, development, and demonstration, which is a tool that is required for innovation that happens in the country. Hence, innovations in the country would be more country specific, and the technology that is being transferred will have kind of a fabric of that country, and country ownership will be critical also to ensure the sustainability associated with the transfer. Very last thing that I wanted to highlight is on the institutional strengthening. One thing that really came out was in order to ensure that the transfer of technology is happening, there needs to be an institutional strengthening, which causes capacity constraints, as well as some of the countries experiences drain of good brains from their countries, which is hence there is a need for ongoing capacity building activities which run out of resources as well. So I think there are a lot more to take there, but let me brief it here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria, and that was impressive in 3 minutes as well. I now invite John Mark, who facilitated the discussion on barriers and challenges around addressing sustainable development and socioeconomic impacts. John, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and it was great meeting you in our workshops, and there's quite a lot, and I hope that we try to harness all that information and collate it for our ambition. Key issues around barriers was technological maturity, economic availability, and infrastructure distribution. Challenges, resource availability, energy density and storage, and then issues around policy and regulation. opportunities, innovations, technologies, and then collaborations, and then we have consumer education. We also had overarching issues. One is to link this discussion to SDG 1, 7, 13, and 17. Then we had the issue of bringing the narrative around life to be at the center of this discussion in order to spur the ambition we want. That whatever we do around mitigation or climate action should have life at the center. And that can make our policymakers, our communities move to action. The other one that is overarching is the gender approach or gender perspective, that we need to get gender at the center of this discussion, especially in the sector of transport that is male-dominated. Lastly, co-chairs. The question is, what next? All the groups were asking, what next? We've harnessed all this information. From here, where do we go? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. I now invite Marusha Kardama, who facilitated the track on barriers and challenges around policies and measures. Marusha, you have the floor.
And I was fearing this moment so very much. So anyway, there I go. I know I'm not going to honor the richness of everything I heard, but let me try to at least harness it in some 3 minutes or so. So we all started with the consciousness of the challenge we are facing in order to put the transport sector in a trajectory that will be compatible with a 1.5 scenario. And we also put in common that we need to move from incremental change to transformative change, but that in doing so, the key is going to be very much to do it respecting the different starting points and the different capacities, and therefore putting in place policies that respond to different national needs. There was a conversation about different views. Of course, we were within the remit and the mandate of this work program. There was the conversation about, should we be aiming to a sectoral global target, or is it signals that we want to send from this multilateral space out there that could then carry further action? There were several examples being shared about the importance of setting national frameworks that then we break down in national policies and targets, and that took us to talk about a whole of government, a whole of industry, and a whole of society approach. When talking about a whole of government approach, we heard many comments about the importance of those cross-sectoral work across different departments, but also about aligning some national policies towards the national goals that you're all pursuing. We equally mentioned the whole of industry approach, very much conscious about the long value chains that are involved in this just energy transition for the transport sector. But then on the whole of community approach, it was all very much about making sure that the policies that are put in place are responding to the inputs and reflecting the inputs by the communities, that they are bringing people along, that the policies about electrification of transport become policies of access to energy, and that the policies about transforming transport systems can also be policies about reinvigorating the economic fabric of our cities and of our countries. There was a lot of mentions by the delegates about the need not just to come with a top-down approach on the policy making, but also the bottom-up, so actually the cities and the regions themselves can identify the needs that they are facing. There was also many mentions to what happens before policy and after policy. Before policy, do we have the data we need at the level of disaggregation we need? Do we have the analysis, or do we put policies in a rush and then we get locked in policy? During the existence of the policy, do we have the governance systems, the institutional arrangements? After the policy, are we having the feedback loops that could actually help us improve that policy and check whether it is delivering what we could need? There was also very many examples and comments about carbon pricing. We heard examples about how to reconcile long-term targets with short-term carbon budgets and carbon pricing, and how that has helped several countries moving the needle. And then we did a bit of wedding planning co-chairs, because there was a lot of comment about you cannot be talking just about policy if you're not marrying policy with finance and technology. And that's where the wedding planning came, here my joke. So there were several delegates telling us that in order to make a change in policy, to go from policy to implementation and then to implementation at scale, we need the finance and we need the technology. I'm not going to cover the comments on finance and technology. There have been obviously sessions about that. And last but not least, there was a lot of recognition to the importance of international cooperation. There were mentions as well to how that international cooperation that is so precious should not result in imposing into developing countries technologies or policy approaches that might have worked for developed nations. So thank you very much. And I think I'm going to try to leave it here, knowing that I have not honored everything that has been said. But thank you.
Thank you very much, Marusha. Yeah, again, we just, as co-facilitators, we would like, or co-chairs, we would like to clarify that this is a high-level summary. We are very well aware that there were some contentious issues in some of the rooms, and we will make sure to capture all the views. Do not worry about this. If you didn't hear your view in the summary, it will be captured in the detailed summary report. So again, I would like to thank all of our facilitators and experts who led the discussions during the breakout workshops today. We are very grateful for your active participation and contribution to advancing the conversations on the key issues. And please, we need to give them really a very good round of applause.
It's okay. Thank you very much. My co-chair and I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to the incoming COP presidency team, to Irina, and to the Abu Dhabi Global Market, as well as to all the technical experts, facilitators, and participants who contributed to this second global dialogue under the Sharm el-Sheikh Mitigation, Ambition, and Implementation Work Programme. We're deeply appreciative of your support and your participation. I'll take another moment to thank you all again, the participants, because sharing views and experiences from your respective countries is incredibly important to address the challenge at hand. And as to quote my friend Jean-Marc, it is a lot. So thank you for also bringing domestic experts, and thank you for businesses and other new actors maybe to these kind of dialogues for taking the time to participate in it. To quote again Jean-Marc, what next? As per our mandate, we will prepare a report of this dialogue and publish the annual report in due time before COP28. Now, a final logistical note before you may decide to go on cultural experiences in Abu Dhabi. The second investment-focused event will start tomorrow at 9 a.m. Please note that the event will be held at a different venue. It takes place at the Abu Dhabi National Exhibition Center, or ADNEC, in conjunction with the World Investment Forum organized by UNCTAD. For those of you that could not collect the badge today, you will be able to get them tomorrow. We look forward to seeing many of you again tomorrow to dive into addressing the challenges of financing mitigation actions and offer the opportunity to pitch new project ideas. We wish you a very good evening and look forward to seeing you tomorrow at ADNEC.
فوق خالص. Okay. So there is a request from the incoming COP presidency. Just stand up because we will have a group photo and the photographer will take it from the higher floor. So just stand up, please. And then the tour guides will be on the left-hand side. So whichever tour you decided to join, please ask for your tour guide on the left-hand side here. Thank you very much and see you tomorrow.
Thank you very much. One more additional piece of information for those that haven't picked up or collected a badge for tomorrow. You can do that starting from 8 a.m. So please be there on time, because there's also a security check and so on. And bring a passport or any form of identification card with a picture so that people know you are you and get your badge. Thank you very much.